and making yourself physically stronger. So how many of you believe that increasing your mental strength will make you a better athlete? Okay, great. And how many of you do that? Okay, perfect. So I work with minor hockey, minor basketball, BC rugby, all of those sorts of things, to professional and Team Canada, Team USA professional athletes. And pretty much that is the answer in every room, is that we think it's important, but what does that exactly mean? And so I'm going to give you just 10 tips today, and we're going to kind of unpack that. And if you want to unpack that more, ask questions, please come reach out, okay? So, number 1, routine. Who has some sort of pregame routine? Okay, what are some things you do? Maybe certain songs you listen to, or certain things you eat? Any of that? So that routine, as simple as it sounds, can actually help balance your nerves. So who gets a little nervous before a game? A big game. Okay, good. So what's going on in your brain, that's actually good. Nerves to a certain extent are good. They help you focus in. Too much, your heart rate gets increased too high. We know that your right brain and your left brain stop talking to each other. Your right brain and your left brain, so that houses your creativity, your problem solving, your logistic, like being able to think really clearly on a snap decision. And that's pretty important in sports, hey? So when your heart rate and your nerves get too high, whether it's in basketball, whether it's in a social setting, at home, or before a test, anytime you have those nerves or that anxiety, a good, real, practical technique is just to breathe, because you have this extra energy. Your hands are maybe getting a little clenched up, your shoulders are getting up by your ears, you're a little shaky. You want to breathe. So I'm going to teach you guys just a really simple breathing exercise that you can do before practices and games, even before a test if you're getting a little nervous. And the beauty of mental health and mental performance, it's not just in basketball that it will make you a better basketball player. It'll help you be a better person. It'll help you feel more alive and thrive. So, all right, just humor me now, and I want you guys to close your eyes, because that's going to like kind of really keen in on this and keen on. All right, so most of us breathe through our chest, but I want you to breathe through your stomach or your diaphragm. And I want you to inhale really, really big and feel your bottom rib come up for 4 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, and then exhale for 4. Out your mouth. 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. So thought and perspective on it, or you had a bad giveaway. Oh, you're awful. You're so bad. Then you start to feel that way about yourself. Your self-confidence decreases. And then what happens next time? You're not as confident going for the ball, you probably lose it. Or you can be a little kind to yourself. And you have those keywords of, you can do this. You're a hard worker. And then you start to feel a little more confident. You start to be a little kind to yourself, and you start to believe in yourself more. And then you start to go for the ball. And even if you don't get it, you were brave enough to show up. And the more you do that, the more you do it. And so how you speak to yourself, how you speak to your teammates is huge. Focus, again, I touched on that. Goals, having a clear goal. So I like to do those SMART goals. Who's heard of those? Okay, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. And it helps you when you're really tired, you want to give up, you don't want to run anymore, but you remember why you came. You remember what you're working towards. Okay? The breathing, imagery. Who's heard of like visualization, things like that? Okay, that's a really popular sports technique that we use, but basically, I'm going to have you guys do it right now. So, again, close your eyes, and you're in your biggest basketball game you've ever been. And your favorite coach you've ever had, who believes in you so much, is right there with you. And they say, hey, focus on these 1 to 2 things today, and you will be successful. What are they? Can someone tell me a few of them? Yeah. Hustle. Great. What's another one? Be aggressive. Awesome. What else? Follow through maybe on your shot. Keep your head up, move your feet, things like that. So those 1 to 2 things, okay? Now go back, close your eyes.
background in education is psychology. I wrote my thesis on women and self-esteem. And I spent the last 9 years, almost 10, studying the impacts of social media on all of us, particularly on children. So I looked at the world of Facebook in about 2009, and I opened it up and thought, oh my, this is gonna go really bad. It was very much to that mentality. I was stunned because I thought sport, when we played sport, it was actually after you did chores in school. And if you happen to be good at it, great, but it shouldn't come out of class with another kid. Then I went to a hockey game in Canada, in Saskatchewan, and it was for my 6-year-old's nephew, and parents were screaming their heads off at the refs. And all of this was culminating as Facebook was becoming enormous. And I thought, oh my God, if we all lost our damn minds. I'm like, where did everyone go? Why isn't anyone getting out of the car? Why are we all yelling at each other? And that was 9 years ago. And here we are in 2019, where we are now seeing that on a world stage, if anyone goes on Twitter to watch Donald Trump. It's rather fascinating. And then we have these little people. So right now, kids as young as 2 get their first device. How many kids have a device here? iPad? Phone? How many have a phone? How many have an iPod? Am I really dating myself if I say iPod? Because he has an iPod now. So we have phones. How old were you when you first got it? Anybody remember the first time I got it? 8? Probably about 8. Parents, how many of you have a device? Did any of us teach each other about this magical little device when we all got it in our pockets? None of us were really prepared for the storm that it would create. None of us. Not even the creators that created it. None of us really were prepared, but some of us remember. Do you guys remember the phone in the kitchen? Do you remember the phone in the kitchen, or am I really showing my age? Do you guys remember the phone and the long cord? Do you remember what your mother would say as soon as you answered the phone? Who are you talking to? Do I know their parents? And by the way, don't ever answer their phone like that. Let's practice. Anybody else get that lesson? And you were like, hi, my name is Janice. I still say Janice speaking, and people laugh on the other line like, what's going on with you? But yet we gave our kids the world in a little device like this. Now, to give you some context to why that's important, every single device, as long as it connects to a Wi-Fi, is them going to the mall by themselves at 4, 5 years old. Now, we as rational parents, we would never leave our 5-year-olds at the mall and leave and go shopping, would we? Maybe just Trevor. But everyone else would not do that. But we wouldn't do that. And so I was really concerned about this, so I thought, okay, how is this going to impact the girls when they go to school? How is it going to impact us when we go to school? What does this mean when the kids play sports? And so I thought, oh my gosh, I got to do something about this. So I quit my job, wrote Oprah, because that's what women do. We said, let's write Oprah. So I did, and 3 days later I had a call from the Oprah show. And off to the Oprah show I went, and that plucked me out of Saskatchewan and onto this crazy ride that I have been ever since. Most of the time it's been analyzing what happens psychologically to all of us as we enter the world of social media. And so there's something we need to understand in definition for each of us. So social media is anything that connects to another person inside the vortex. Something that is social. So any of the boys, girls playing Fortnite? Fortnite connects to the world, which connects to people. You guys talking? When they go on an Xbox and you can talk and there's a Wi-Fi and it's social, that's still social media. Snapchat, who's got it? Snapchat? Instagram, parents too. Facebook? Twitter. All the above. It's okay, we all do. The mom's like this in the back book. That's me too. It's all right. So when we think of the world of social media, what we need to understand as parents is that it's wired for every child's insecurity. So I'm going to say that again. Before a child's 10th birthday, they have established a lot of the beliefs of who they are. So before a child's 10th birthday, and some say 7, is if you have begun a thought process. I'm good enough, I'm not good enough. For us as parents, we do all well-intended things, like comparing you to your siblings. How many of you felt like that, Peyton? We put these beliefs onto our children, and it begins a thought pattern that they have. And then if we have divorces or moves or anything else that happens to our children, before their 7th to 10th birthday, they have become and have a computer and a dialogue in their brain. And we all know it because you as adults, let's be honest, we still have it too. Father's voice, or that teacher who once said something that was mean to you. So when you enter the world to find out what it is that you don't like about yourself, and it pours gasoline on it, over and over and over again. And on average, the average person picks up their phone 120 times a day. And the average person spends 5 to 7 hours inside social media. And for tweens, it's 9 hours a day. 9 hours, that's the average. So when they go to school and you all think that they're not picking up their phone in middle school, they're on Snapchat, they're on social media. Something that is changing the way that they see themselves. And if it's not changing the way that they see themselves, it's reinforcing the way that they see about themselves. I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. Now as a mom, it's been devastating to watch. Because although Peyton doesn't have social media, she still has YouTube. Although she watches a lot of slime videos, there is going to be a time that she's not going to be at slime videos. But those spaces like Fortnite, YouTube, they're the #1 pedophile places to date. They are on the FBI Most Wanted. Most of the FBI Most Wanted are actually trolling in those spaces. And you as parents need to become very, very vigilant about where your kids spend time. It's beyond screen time. The conversation we're having right now is screen time, screen time, screen time. That's the wrong conversation. The better conversation is, when they enter these spaces, how do they feel about themselves? How does it change how they see? And for all of us as parents, it's happening to us too. Because we cannot avoid the vortex. We just can't. When you go in, it begins a cycle of comparative psychosis. My life versus this life. I'm not like this, I wish I like this. I'm going to announce this. If I don't announce this, I'm going to out-announce you, and I'm going to announce this. And now we're doing it with our kids. So, these are the rules of social media, if you don't know them. I'm going to create them. Do you remember the light when the lights went on the street, it was time for supper? Did anybody else have that rule? Okay, we as parents have to get on the same team. So think of the device as them going to the mall. When you open the device, think of them as watching a television program. How much do you think it's necessary? And are you okay with the rest of the world telling your child what they should think about themselves? And if you're okay with strangers putting that onto your kids, then it's time for you to become very aware, because that's what's happening. Now, what's difficult in the world of social media is we as parents all have devices too. So we can't really say, do what I say, not as I do. The rule no longer applies. It was really good for booze, because you could always say you can't have booze till you're 20. So you could use that rule. You can't when it comes to the device, but the power of it is exactly the same as a drug. So you need to look at it that way. So some of the rules are this: no devices in the phone or in the bedroom. When it's time for bed, it's time for bed. You must take the devices out of the bedroom. That's the #1 rule. These children need to sleep. They need between 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night. When the brain is activated in the spaces that is telling them that they are not good enough, it takes a long time for them to cycle out of it. And it's hard on us. You know when you pick up the phone and you start scrolling, how many of you looked up and it's been 20 minutes? And you're like, oh my God, how did I lose 20 minutes? Now that adds up over time, and that what we found is that actually physical activity has decreased. So because these are young athletes, they're actually the leaders. We need to teach this group so that they can go teach their peers, because they're actually here doing physical activity, which right now they say about 8% of kids in middle school are getting enough physical activity. 8% compared to a decade ago. So less and less kids are active. So the dangers of social media are really simple when you actually know what's happening in them and when you yourself know what's happening in them. Kids should not be on any type of social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, until at least 14 or 15 years old. And even then, I would recommend 18. They should not be on those in any way, shape, or form. It's not the issue of what your child's doing, it's what's happening to them. So please understand that. It's not what your child's doing in the spaces, it's what's happening to them inside the vortex. A lot of the content is not built for them. It's actually built for adults. So social media, legally, is 13 and under. I say, protect your children as long as you can to stay out of it, and then limit the amount of time. One of the things that parents will always write me and say afterwards, it's like, well, I know everyone who they're talking to. That's not the point. The point is the vortex on how it engineers the child to begin to see themselves and their self-esteem and their self-worth external to them, which is further to what Barb is talking about. Right now, our children are having their identities wrapped into a like button and a follower counter, which in behavior psychology we know is actually incredibly unhealthy. And the sphere of influence that you have as a parent over a child's life, you know it's starting to decrease already, because 12-year-olds are starting to like their friends more than us. But right now, we're still a star. I still get to be the star of Peyton's life, even if I embarrass her. Because once they're 14, 15, 16, you can't impact them as much. But you must understand that between 7 and 10 years old, they already have their belief structure. And the way that the social media is currently built and engineered, it's to reinforce any negative thought. It is not there to make them feel good. They go back there hoping for a different result. How many of you know the famous statement of the definition of insanity is going there expecting a different result? That's what social media is built for. You keep going back hoping that something will change, but the only thing that will actually change is if you stay out of the vortex. That's the only way that you actually can defend your way against it.